Good evening. We're going to give a few minutes for this webinar to populate. We thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thank you for your patience. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for tonight's program. In Solidarity and in Strength is a webinar series launched by the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles to support the Jewish community in bringing together subject matter experts on issues relevant to our Jewish community and provide ongoing learning opportunities to become more informed. Collectively, we will work to strengthen and protect our community. Tonight's webinar is entitled Securing Success for Our Jewish Students. As we approach the one-year anniversary of October 7th, we are acutely aware of how the Gaza-Israel war has impacted our community. At times, we've seen how our classrooms and our school environments across the nation have become stages for political narratives and agendas to be played out. Joining us on this evening's panel are leading educational experts that will address strategies for creating respectful and inclusive environments, proactive measures, guardrails to ensure the safety and security of our students, and strategies to empower families to help ensure the success of the school year ahead. We invite you to submit questions throughout our conversation this evening using the webinar's Q&A function, and our moderator will direct them to today's panelists. Please welcome our moderator for this evening, Robert Henlish, Vice President of Israel Education and Advocacy at Jewish Federation Los Angeles.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and thank you everyone for joining us for tonight's conversation. Understand, embrace, include, protect. These four words are the cornerstones for securing a successful year ahead for our Jewish students in K-12 schools, and the themes of our webinar tonight. Over the past year, our team has continually heard from parents. Our school does not understand what the Jewish community is experiencing at this moment. Our school does not know how to recognize and address anti-Semitism. And our school does not understand the nuances of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and much more. We are feeling misunderstood. We also heard our district is not incorporating and accommodating for major Jewish holidays. My child is afraid to be outwardly Jewish at school and a proud Zionist. We have not felt fully embraced and protected. And finally, we have heard our administration is not addressing our concerns or shutting them down completely. Our DEI director is not including Jewish students in his programming at a time when we need the most support. Our school is not allowing a Holocaust survivor to speak on our campus this year, and much, much more. We are not being included as we should. Tonight's webinar will provide practical tools and insights for our community to bring back to their own individual campuses to help create more inclusive and create a positive experience for Jewish students this year. We have brought together a variety of educators, a school principal, a leader in DEI, a classroom teacher, as well as a parent who made a tremendous difference in her school district to help us proactively address challenges before they occur. One of the most important initiatives to address all these challenges is the Holy Land Democracy Project and the Education Leader Study Trip to Israel, where we bring classroom teachers and education leaders from public and private schools to Israel to help them understand our community better and Israel better. Tonight, all three educators on the panel are alumni. And we welcome everybody in the audience. We welcome your partnership to invite your own teachers and your own school leaders to join us for this year's trip. More information will be provided in a follow-up email tomorrow. And while there have been many obstacles over the past year, there have also been many opportunities and success stories that have come out of them. Today, our panelists will share ways we can ensure our Jewish students will be understood, embraced, included, and protected in our schools. So to start our webinar off, we have a very special message from the State Superintendent of Public Instruction for the California Department of Education, Tony Thurmond.
Hey everyone, Tony Thurmond here, California State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I have the honor of working with our 1,000 school districts all across the state of California. And it is my honor to bring you greetings as you come together for this great opportunity to focus on our K-12 back to school securing success for our Jewish students. I want to thank everyone at the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles for putting this opportunity on and for the invitation that you made me just a few years for us to go together to Israel with 45 educators to talk about how we teach about the Jewish experience and to learn directly about the creation of a two-state solution and how we work together. I know that the world has changed dramatically and there's been a lot of hurt, but we continue to promote a message that will help us to counter anti-Semitism in our state, in our schools, and in our world. And so I'm excited for this opportunity, and I want you to learn about the things that we're doing, including the education series that we put together. We call it Education to End Hate. Because we believe that education is the best tool to prevent young people from falling into hate groups and acting on hate speech. And so we put on webinars and trainings and resources provided to educators to help prevent hate and to counter hate when it exists. We also have created an oral history project for students to learn about the Holocaust. And we've had Holocaust survivors and their families provide a first-person narrative about their experience in the Holocaust to help California students understand the Holocaust. We're developing a curriculum that every school in California can use to focus on Holocaust education and prevention, genocide. And it's my honor to be co-chairing the governor's task force on Holocaust education and genocide prevention. We'll continue to work on these things, and we're providing resources for every teacher in our state through the California Teacher Collaborative on Holocaust and genocide education to have resources. We believe that there's no place for hate. We believe that education is our greatest tool to counter hate, and we are your partner to continue working together to stamp out anti-Semitism and any form of hate where it exists. I've made a pledge that we will keep, that whenever we see any form of hate in any of our schools, we will go there and work with those school communities to root it out. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being part of the Education to End Hate work. And we look forward to the work that we'll do together on behalf of our students in the great state of California.
Big thank you to Tony Thurmond for taking the time to send that powerful message to our community. So now I'd like to introduce our panelists, and I will introduce them as we move throughout the conversation tonight. I first want to introduce Jamie Schnell. Jamie is a stay-at-home mom to her 3 kids, as well as an active member of her synagogue and a passionate Zionist. Her lifelong love for Israel and Judaism has inspired her dedication to fight anti-Semitism through advocacy and her work with the South Bay Jewish Advisor Group. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Before you tell us about your journey, I just want to say thank you for your tremendous inspiration that I know you're going to give all the parents tonight. It's just an amazing story, as I was talking about earlier, of turning challenges into success stories. And your story really is one that shows that. So As a Jewish parent at Palos Verdes Unified School District, can you describe what this past year has been like for you and your child? And I know there was an incident with the high school yearbook. Can you give us a brief summary of what happened?
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks, Robert. Thanks for the question. Yeah, as a Jewish parent, especially in this last year, it's certainly been, a very trying time and a painful time in a lot of ways. And we've all been hurting and struggling and figuring out how to talk to our kids about what's going on. And then we had an incident that, I hate to say it, but kind of added insult to injury when we were already, feeling pain. So last year, so my younger son is currently at Palos Verdes High School. And last year, when the yearbooks were handed out at the end of the school year, it became alarmingly apparent to many of us that there was something in the yearbook that was really inappropriate. So there was this one section in the yearbook that was apparently supposed to be like editorials, and they were little student-written articles about hot topics and current events, things going on in the world. So one of them, it was a full-page piece, and it was titled, "Whose Land Is It Anyway?" And the student wrote about her view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. She referred to the land as Palestine. And unfortunately, there were just so many factual errors. And there was a lot of dangerous anti-Semitic language. The presence of Jewish people in the land of Israel for thousands of years, that was completely erased from her narrative. So to say the least, I was shocked, and it was so it just was so upsetting. Also when you realize that, yearbooks are so special to kids, and people keep them forever. And this yearbook went out to hundreds of families and is in hundreds of homes and will be for probably many, many years. So it was very, very painful and hurtful for so many of the Jewish families. So what did we do? We immediately came together, some of the parents and, our educators and clergy, and our rabbi from our local synagogue. And we, started calling. We called the principal, and we're reaching out to the school. And what happened with that initial reaching out, I think caught some of us by surprise. A lot of the people were unclear why this was anti-Semitic. There was a lot of surprise about the big emotional response that so many of us had. And what we were reminded in this exchange was that anti-Semitism is not always easy to recognize. People call it a shapeshifter because over thousands of years, it has morphed and mutated, often, taking the form of whatever is the biggest grievance of the time, so that Jews can be blamed. And this way that it mutates makes it difficult to recognize. It's very different than other forms of racism and discrimination. The other piece that, excuse me, while I just take a sip of my water. Thank you. The other piece that really confounds it also is the Israel piece and Zionism. And, as Jews, our connection to the land is the foundation of our heritage, and it informs what we do and who we are and our traditions and our religion. And they really, for many of us, just can't be separated. So that adds a whole other difficulty. But what we realized was we needed to educate. We needed to deal with the yearbook issue, but we also needed to educate the people in our schools so that they would know anti-Semitism when they saw it. We started to organize and collaborate. Many of us went to school board of education meetings. We were really starting to form a team. We had a couple initial wins that were really great. The district agreed to a district-wide training for the teachers about anti-Semitism. A number of our administrators visited the Museum of Tolerance. But there was also pushback and there was some frustration. But what we realized, the yearbook is one incident, but it's representative of a bigger pervasive problem. So, thanks.
Oh, thank you, Jamie. It really shows the importance of parent involvement and how a few parents can really make a big difference, and the focus on education. I found in our work how many people just really don't know about the Jewish people. They don't know about Israel. And we really have to do all of our parts. Jewish leaders, Jewish educators, rabbis, parents, and get involved. So really a wonderful success story. Thank you, Jamie. Next, I'd like to introduce Susie Parker. Susie is the principal of Sherman Oaks Center for Enriched Studies, the largest magnet school in LAUSD. As an educator of 18 years, she has focused on leveraging innovation and technology for the purpose of developing students' creativity, design, model thinking, and analytical reasoning skills. Susie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. And also thank you, Jamie, for sharing your story, but also for highlighting that education and teaching was one of the strategies that you all leveraged to address that incident. And I bring that up because I come to you not only as a parent, but as an educator who is deeply committed to creating a school system that respects the identity of all of our students, including our Jewish students. And I truly believe that it starts with a thorough understanding of our histories and our identities and a shared respect for them. Following the events of October 7th, my school did not experience any specific incident of hate or bias directly related to the event. However, we immediately understood the global impact of it and the magnitude that could deeply impact our Jewish students and all of our students and potentially disrupt our campus climate. We hold steadfast to the belief that every student on campus should not only feel safe, but should be able to celebrate their identity and their histories without fear and with respect. And what we witnessed happening outside at other schools and in other communities was a direct affront to this. So we took several proactive steps that started with lessons and started with education. And one of our history teachers, Mr. Barish, immediately started to provide lessons on the Israeli-Gaza conflict to our teachers at different grade levels to begin to discuss what was going on in terms of politically and also factually going on. And he used lessons that were vetted not only from our district, but also from the New York Times, from a website called Facing History. And that was just the beginning. We then went into embedding more regular lessons that the district and also our Department of Human Relations, Diversity and Equity provide on combating anti-Semitism, remembering and honoring the Holocaust, and broader themes of diversity inclusion. I think one of our most impactful measures or strategies that we have on campus is we have a very robust Jewish Student Union Club. It plays a critical role in fostering our intercultural understanding and inclusivity on campus. The students meet every week and are instrumental in programming dialogues that are hosted between different clubs, different groups on campus. They're also facilitated by staff on campus and by a rabbi who joins us. And once a month, we host in the garden during lunch, we host an open mic session. It's called our Open Mic in the Garden series. And it's sponsored by our ASB, our student body. And it's a chance for students to come together to share their experiences, share their concerns, but also to really discuss incidents of bias and hate speech, including anti-Semitic slurs, the impact that they have on students and on their families. These events really help our students stand in solidarity against racism and anti-Semitism And they actually were recognized in the spring last year by the LA Unified. The JSU was, when they were awarded a Student Diversity Award for hosting these events and also hosting these conversations. At my particular school, we do host every year in January an annual Holocaust Remembrance Day assembly where the entire school goes. We do it by different grade levels, and we do invite guest speakers, and then they also go into the classrooms. So we're pretty diligent about that. But we do have, in all respects, probably at every single school, we have a long way to go to create environments where we respond immediately to hate incidents, to harm that's caused, where we facilitate healing, where we create safe environments where kids can really have honest, authentic conversations that help us move forward and really address these incidents.
Great. Well, thank you, Susie. We're very grateful for your leadership, and I really appreciate the discussions that are happening with your faculty and your student body. And I think that is really crucial in this difficult time to understand the complexities of what's going on in the Middle East right now and what's happening to the Jewish people, and have people understand. So we really appreciate that vision and opportunities that you give to your faculty and students. Next, I'd like to welcome Yvette Talton as the Dean of DEIB at Oakwood Schools. Yvette focuses on nurturing diverse community, building alliances, and supporting 13 affinity alliance groups and DEI programs. She also served as the school's Assistant Director of Admission and Director of Outreach as well. Yvette, before I ask you your question, I just need to publicly share with everybody on this webinar how amazing it was to travel with you this summer to Israel. And in particular, a moment that really I'll never forget in my life, when we got to visit the Nova exhibit together, excuse me, the Nova site together in Israel. And I was having a really difficult time, crying my eyes out and just trying to soak it all in. And I'll never forget your kindness to comfort me during that difficult visit to the Nova site. So I just want to thank you for your care throughout the whole trip, not just for me, but also your concern for your Jewish students. I just was blown away how much you wanted to learn to be able to better serve and comfort and care for your Jewish students. So I just wanted to publicly put that in front of our audience. So thank you, thank you. I'll never forget that moment personally.
Oh, thank you so much. I will never forget that experience. It tears me up. So the more I think about that, the more it makes me want to cry. Just know what happened to people who just innocent out there enjoying their day, and they get massacred by terrorists.
It was difficult.
I think that is gonna stay with all of us for a very long time.
Yeah. And we're so happy you joined us, Yvette, and it really meant a lot to do it together. And I know that Oakwood does such a great job, as we were talking on the trip a lot. And you were telling me that you guys do different things to help the different ethnic groups on your campus. You have a good, diverse campus. Really embrace their ethnic, racial, and gender identities. How does your school achieve that? And for everybody on this call, what are some ways that Jewish students can embrace that, on their school? Maybe they're on a public school campus, or maybe they're a small group on another private school. What are some good tips or strategies that we can help Jewish students embrace their identities right now?
Yeah, of course. First, I just want to thank you for having me. As a DEI practitioner, I think anytime we can hold conversations about supporting our Jewish students, especially during this time, it's a win. I want to start by saying that no school is perfect, and we found that out last year, but there are things that we can do in our schools to help create an environment that nurtures students and embracing who they are, even in the difficult times. One of the things that I love about Oakwood is that we value our student voices. What we know at Oakwood is that when students feel heard and valued, it creates this magical, supportive environment where students feel free to explore, to affirm who they are, and embrace all parts of who they are. I've seen firsthand at Oakwood what happens when students feel their voices are valued. They gain this kind of confidence to express who they are. This includes like sharing aspects of their culture, their racial background, gender, religion. I mean, and that's really what it's all about, is students being able to embrace themselves and who they are. We want our students to know their voices matter. So we do things like small things, or maybe they're not small. When hiring new teachers or administrators, we always include students in that in the interview, and we try to make it diverse to get different perspectives. When we have guest speakers that come in and they're DEI guest speakers, our students get first dib at those speakers. They want to talk to them, they want to ask questions. And there's so many other ways that you can include student voices, and that will build up their confidence in who they are as a person. Also, when students see that their ideas actually matter, their experiences matter in their school community, we feel that they feel more accepted. And again, that was a huge thing last year, is to try to gain acceptance, to be able to express what your needs are and how you are feeling. So that kind of rolls me into another thing that plays a huge role in helping our students embrace their identity and feel pride in who they are. And that's our affinity groups. I get to run those, and it's a lot of fun. We have 12 affinity alliance group. Really, there's something for everyone, and you want it that way. Affinity groups are similar to clubs. They're voluntary. They're started by our students, and they're led by our students. And then they get a faculty sponsor to mentor and support them. And the students put that all together. One of the things we have at Oakwood is we're not allowed to start clubs and affinity groups or alliance groups. Now, these clubs offer a great space for students to connect over their shared identities and experiences, whether it's racial, ethnic, gender, whatever their identity that they want to express and to show to our community. These groups allow students to build that community and advocate for their unique needs. These can also be alliance groups. And so alliance groups are more of like when you are not, it's not just the people that share your identity, but it's also, people who are allies, who want to support you and make sure that they're there with, in solidarity with you. And I think that's a huge piece. And with all 12 affinity groups, we want and we push students and those affinity groups to reach across differences. So if you're a Jewish affinity group, maybe you partner with our Latinx affinity group. There's some commonality there, or maybe differences that you can hold a topic of discussion and learn about each other's perspectives. Every affinity or alliance group has a faculty sponsor who mentors the students. They help amplify their voices, and they ensure that they have the resources that they need in order for that affinity group to thrive. The mentors, they also work closely with me, and I'm there to help make sure that the student concerns and initiatives are put forth. We also host, and these are all a part of those affinity spaces, we do celebrations. such as like Heritage Month celebrations. And I know our Jewish affinity group, they have the celebrations that they want to do. And we usually do it in a public space, but sometimes our students want to do it just in their affinity group. And that's okay too. We allow the students to tell us how they want to celebrate in that moment. We do pride events. So there are a lot of intersection between race and also gender and ethnicity. And so we really want to push the collaborating and allowing our students to go in and out of different affinity spaces. And that gives the students a really great way to embrace and celebrate their identity, and it reinforces their value, which to me is the biggest part that I love. When we have students, yeah. And when we
it's so important that I think in this moment, and one of the things that you alluded to is, having different affinity groups meet each other.
Yeah.
And I often found that most people really haven't met Jews before.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I had that experience in college. I was the first Jewish person other Californians had met. And, I'm sure a lot of your students are meeting other Jewish students for the first time. And those interactions are so, so important. So I really just love the vision you guys are doing, and a great model for everybody else. Thank you so much, Yvette.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would like to introduce our final panelist, Georgina Salazar. And Georgina is a Spanish teacher at Hamilton High School and a faculty advisor for the Jewish Student Union Club on her campus. She's been an educator for over 25 years of teaching experience. And I also want to say I had the pleasure of traveling to Israel with Georgina. And Georgina, I just want to note your passion to learn, your care for the Jewish students that you lead, and your courage to stand up in this difficult moment. I've just admired from day one, and how much you fell in love with Israel is just so inspiring. So just thank you, Georgina, for being here. We're so grateful. So Georgina, can you tell us a little bit about your experience after October 7th for you and your students and that year, and what were the ways that you and the Jewish club went through these times? What did you do during these challenging times?
Thank you. And thank you for your kind words. The one thing about going to Israel is that it ended. I had so many more questions. I wanted to learn so much, but it was great. So I thank you for that. We all know that the attacks of October 7 impacted many families, teachers, and students in different ways. For instance, at my school, and this is also so in the West Side area where my school is located, there was a clear division among teachers. Some of these teachers became supporters of pro-Palestinian sympathizers. And these groups created an atmosphere of fear, uncertainty, extreme anxiety, trauma in our students and their families. Jewish students, Bobby, you mentioned it before, are now choosing to stay home after high school, and they're opting to attend local community college instead of a four-year college for fear of their safety and the lack of support from those who are supposed to protect them. There was, at my school, there was an increased level of anti-Semitism. Students were drawing swastikas in bathrooms, and forgive me for saying this, but sometimes they would draw them with their own feces. Pro-Palestinian groups organized protests. Many of them walked out of school, and of course, there were also confrontations between Jewish students and pro-Palestinian supporters. The rest of us, Jewish and non-Jewish, we found ourselves defending our students as the tensions and emotions run high. Good things happened, and they continue to happen as we move forward. So there's a group of teachers who played a crucial role in helping each other and also our students. For example, at my school, our classrooms became safe spaces for students. Teachers also created safe spaces for one another so that we can talk about the things that we want, the changes we want to see in our school to protect our students, all our students. Um, you know, it also didn't take very long for our Jewish students to sort of like regain, take control of their narrative. I saw a lot of our Jewish boys wearing the yarmulkes with a lot of pride. You know, when our clubs, like Bobby said, I'm the moderator for the Jewish Student Union at my school. And I just loved it when our students got together and instead of having a regular meeting, they would educate themselves about different terms like what it's like to be a Zionist, about Zionism. And I learned so much from those experiences with them. You know, and also our faculty members joined our weekly meetings to show support to our students. And one teacher was brave enough to organize a meeting between pro-Palestinians and Jewish students. Um, Sadly, it didn't go as planned, but nonetheless, they had the opportunity to bring their issues. And this is something that we're going to continue working on. Other things that happened, Rabbi Cohen and Rabbi Solomon, they brought messages and they continue to bring their messages of love, support. And every week they always bring us pizza, delicious pizza to our meetings. So the kids love that. My dear friend and colleague, Larry Shoham, who is joining us today, and the Association of Jewish Educators, they organize Zoom meetings about what it's like to be Jewish in 2024. And personally, like my students, I wanted to learn more about the Jewish experience and the geopolitical issues that are affecting Israel. So when Rabbi Solomon nominated me to apply for the Holy Land Democracy Project, I did not hesitate to apply. And like I said, I wanted to continue learning more. It was just such a great experience. So not just the trip, but the lectures, the people we met, the survivors that we met and we talked to, Dan, one of our leaders, Bobby, Rabbi Micah, Devi, the whole organization. You know, the new friends like Yvette that I met during the trip, this all became a life-changing experience for me. And a lot of the lectures, the books that we read before the trip, I use all this to talk to people. I use it in my classes to talk to my students. I try to incorporate as much as I can in my lessons. You know, there's a lot more to do, but even though we're few in our group, but we're very strong, and we are working together to make positive changes for the benefit of all our students.
Georgina, you reminding me as a former classroom teacher for 10 years, the importance and the impact of a teacher. And I think in this time, just having one teacher on a campus who's supporting Jewish students in a big way makes the world of a difference. And I know you're doing that for your Jewish students, and we're forever grateful. Thank you, Georgina. Jamie, let's come back to you. The whole South Bay community came together in such positive ways to address that yearbook incident, and really, again, so inspiring and just really shows when we come together the impact we can make. Can you talk about that and offer some guidance to other parent groups and communities on what worked well and what could be replicated?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for the question. You know, as you mentioned, look, so often happens with a difficult situation, something beautiful comes of it. And that we really found that we had an opportunity to create something really beautiful. And out of a lot of the collaboration and getting together with people in our immediate community, and then expanding on that, the South Bay Jewish Advisory Group was born. And in a very short amount of time, we've expanded to, we're in the South Bay, you know, of Los Angeles. We are working with 8 synagogues. We have parent representatives from 6 different local school districts. And we are so honored and grateful to be working in consultation and coordination with some amazing groups. First and foremost, the Jewish Federation, of course, of Los Angeles. We're working with Stand With Us, ADL, AJC, Hadassah, the Holocaust Museum of Los Angeles, and 360 Perspectives. And, you know, to be working with people who are professionals in this space is pretty remarkable. And I'll just read briefly what our mission statement is. Our mission is to educate and empower teachers, administrators, parents, and community leaders to identify, respond to, and prevent anti-Semitism in our schools. And, you know, if people want to find out more about the South Bay Jewish Advisory Group, I know there's going to be a follow-up email that will have our website and email address so people can reach out and find out more. I really want to spend some time answering the second part of your question. What can parents do? You know, my perspective as a parent, not an educator in the schools, you know, it's slightly different, and that's a good thing. So I'll just tell you, I was going to break it up kind of into two sections: things that you can do at home and things you can do outside the home. You know, there's so many different things that parents can do, and so many different levels of participation based on, you know, what people are comfortable with. But in your own home with your kids, you know, the first thing I would say is talk to them about anti-Semitism. Have conversations and dialogue. You know, what is it? What does your family believe represents anti-Semitism? What experiences have you had? Ask your kids, have you faced anti-Semitism? Ask them how they feel about it. Another thing that has been really important to me and to my husband in raising our kids is to raise them with a strong Jewish identity. You know, my hope is that when my kids go out into the world with a strong Jewish identity and a strong sense of self, that when they do face these challenging times, that they feel that they can speak up for themselves. They feel that they can stand their ground. And so much of that, I believe, starts at home with, you know, teaching them about their heritage. Something else that we've loved doing, we've been doing since the kids were little, is we invite their non-Jewish friends over for Shabbat. We usually do at least one night of Hanukkah. I really think that, you know, on the more intimate, personal level, there's so much we can do. And I think I'd like to think that over the years, you know, a number of different non-Jewish kids in our community, you know, students at my kids' schools, their friends, their peers, kids that are on sports teams with them, in their classrooms, they've gotten a little taste of what Judaism is. Where we live, there's a fairly small Jewish population. And so just however many kids we can touch and show some of the beauty and the fun of our traditions, that's been really special. The other thing as a parent is, you know, keep an eye on what's happening in your kid's classroom. Volunteer in the classroom. Keep an eye on the curriculum. Take a look at their history book. Ask them what they're learning about in their classes, just so you really know what's going on. And then outside your home, get involved. Join the PTA, volunteer in the classroom, go to Board of Education meetings, you know, start being in the mix in your kids' schools and in their district. You know, for parents that are interested, certainly organize locally with other parents to combat anti-Semitism when you see it in your schools. Reach out to staff and administration. You know, the other thing that's another really positive way to be a part of change is sharing our culture. You know, so many schools have international festivals. You know, I grew up, my mom would come in and make latkes on Hanukkah in my classroom. Whenever you can, share our beautiful traditions and our heritage with your schools. You know, one of the things that I think is such a really positive way to make a difference when there's so much darkness happening is sharing the beauty of who we are as a people, sharing our light. And I just think that, you know, if that can make a change, you know, why not?
Ooh, beautifully said, Jamie. And I so much I want to say and react to it. We don't have the time, but I really love how you're empowering your children. And I think in this moment, having them be the ambassador for our people, like you said, bring the light, and often talking to their fellow students is more important than the adults in the room, right? The teachers, the experts coming in. We could do that for our schools, sometimes students in one ear out the other, but if they see their fellow classmate is passionate about something or wants to share their identity or share a different perspective, I've always found that to be even more important than anything any other adult can say. So well done on that, Jamie, and thank you for all those beautiful insights. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert.
Susie, we'll go back to you now. Susie, obviously there's a lot of incidents this past year in the K through 12 schools. For example, we had teachers teach biased things about Israel. We had anti-Semitic incidents that weren't reported or dealt with properly. There was Palestinian support walkouts by students and a lot of other challenges, obviously. And as a principal, how do you stand up to the current challenges and create a systemic change to ensure that problematic, anti-Semitic, hateful incidents are reduced or don't happen at all at your campus?
I think one thing that you said that resonates with me is the idea that I started to think about, that as a principal, I know how to do that. Similar to probably everybody who is attending this workshop right now, we have a clear vision. We probably have the strategies. We probably have the tools. But what I began to realize is that our students did not. And if we really were truly going to address racism, address anti-Semitism, and work towards creating greater diversity in our systems and in our education, in our schools, we had to begin to really equip our students to be able to address it on their level, peer to peer. Exactly what Jamie was talking about in the conversations that she encourages families to host about what does anti-Semitism look like. So I have been putting a lot of energy into a partnership that my school formed with USC's Race and Equity program to have our students create a leadership academy where they're actually being schooled by USC professors on how to begin to address issues of anti-Semitism, issues of racism, and be proactive in creating systems among themselves to help diminish those incidents. I'll give you an example which always resonates with me. And that is the first workshop that the professors host on campus. The first question they ask the 30 student leaders who are there, and we invite students from all the major clubs that we have and major subgroups. Everyone from, we invite students from our Jewish Student Union, our Russian club, our Ukrainian club, our Korean club, our Gay Straight Alliance. And so we have a diversity of students there. And they ask the students, how many of you all have had your name mispronounced at one point in a school system? And 99% of students will raise their hand just with that one question. And the next question they ask is, how many of you told your friend, told the teacher, told the administrator that they were pronouncing your name wrong? And pretty much no one will raise their hand. And for me, it's a starting point that tells me that students aren't inherently or intuitively, they don't know how to directly address statements, microaggressions, racism, or anti-Semitism when it rears its head. And it does almost every single day, whether it's through the news, whether it's through social media, whether it's through a bias of an educator is addressing. So that's kind of our starting point. And we put our students in this leadership academy through 6 half-day workshops. The topics range from theories of racism, theories of diversity, to then we begin to build their skill set in addressing it, to then they begin to develop lessons that they then go into the advisories and teach the other students, and also run community circles. So it's a start. It's a start, but it's a start that, at least on my campus, is really starting to help to create accountability, create knowledge, and also empower our kids to know what to say when a kid uses a anti-Semitic phrase by them, or a racist slur, or hate speech, or post something online. And I think for me, that really is the foundation for beginning to create systemic change among our institutions, is to empower our children to be the change makers.
Yeah, beautifully said, Susie. And I really appreciate your campus's willingness and desire to help students navigate this difficult time, understand hate, and really train leaders, especially on campus, to identify, give them the skills and education to bring to the student body. I think that's a really wonderful strategy. So thank you for your insights. Yvette, we'll go to you next. And Yvette, how can affinity groups support, the Jewish experience right now? And as the dean of, DEIB Enter Campus, how can you and your model help other DEI departments all over Los Angeles be more inclusive of the Jewish community in the year ahead? Because often we've been hearing that a lot of DEI departments have not included the Jewish people and Jewish students this year.
Yeah, and I'm excited to be able to address all of that as well. First of all, having affinity groups, just having them, sends a powerful signal to students that it's okay for them to be who they are. It doesn't matter if they attend weekly or not. It's the idea that if things go down, they have a safe space to go. If they are struggling with an anti-Semitic remark, or how to deal with a racism or anything of that sort, they can go to that affinity space. And there's a mentor there. In our case, we have two amazing faculty members, Jewish faculty members, that support them. And we deal with that situation. And we teach our Jewish students how to deal with these kind of situations. But it's sad that kids have to do this, but this is where we are. I know that when October 7th happened, it was like a ripple effect throughout, not just our school, but schools worldwide. Our kids suffered. Jewish kids suffered deeply. And I wish that every school in that moment had an affinity space that our Jewish students could have gone to. I hope that if there are students listening or parents listening, know that you have a voice and you can go to an administrator or a faculty member and let them know that this is what you want to do at our campus. It's like, just get a faculty member to sponsor you and we'll do the rest. It's not hard to start up, but this is such a worthy cause and need for our students in general. So I hope that that kind of answers that question. The other thing is, I spent a lot of time while we were in Israel on our trip, the Jewish Federation trip. And the question that I kept asking myself is DEI inclusive of the Jewish experience? And, I finally had the time to think about that. And overall, let me tell you, no was the answer that it came to me. I don't feel like that we have championed anti-Semitism in the same vigor that we have racism. we saw this in how all the schools had to scramble and look for speakers and experts after October 7th to gain just historical knowledge, but just to understand anti-Semitism. So it was very clear to me that we hadn't done the work in order to understand the Jewish experience. So that's one. Then I'm like, why? So historically, I do know that DEI began with a focus on racial issues. This was due to the long systemic racial inequalities that are here in the US, you know, civil rights movement, all of that. DEI was pushing organizations to address racial disparity. And because of this, I feel like anti-Semitism is often overlooked in the DEI conversation, with Jewish experience of discrimination not receiving the same attention as other forms of discrimination or biases. Let's not forget, Jews are frequently viewed as solely privileged, with Jewish identity being linked to whiteness. This is something we have to uncouple in our DEI work, and we have to gain a different perspective in that area and look at the complexity of and intersectionalities of our Jewish identities, including Jews of color and those facing economic hardship as well. So, I mean, it's a huge conversation. I can go on and on, but I'll give you a couple of things to just do if you have an opportunity to with your schools. First, get them to acknowledge anti-Semitism and have training. Education is key. And if you can do that, I feel like you can win just agreeing with education. Also highlight that the Jewish experience is not just white. There are different, Jewish experience is very diverse, and that needs to be taught. Have the Jewish experience, like history, taught in the classes. I think that's important. But that's just a few things that you can do. I hope this helps. I think together, if we tackle this, that the hostility and things that our students are dealing with in our Jewish communities can change and get better.
Yvette, I can't thank you enough for acknowledging and naming some of the shortcomings in DEI over the past year, especially, and not acknowledging, you know, one of the most historically oppressed people in history in their most difficult moment, and the need for a DEI 2.0 to really grow and to include the Jews and more understanding on campuses of our diversity and what we're going through, and the oppression, hatred that we are facing now, and also throughout history. So that really means a lot to our community. Thank you so much. And Georgina, we'll come back to you to start wrapping up our wonderful webinar. I wish we had another hour. There's so much to talk about. Georgina, based on your experience of education in the last 20 years or so, and what do you think schools can do differently this year to support their Jewish students and parents in the year ahead?
Yeah, there's so much that can be done. For instance, so much that can be done to support students, their families, and teachers. But one of the most important questions one should ask is, how can I best help you? As the teacher, as the parent, as the student, how can I best help you? Because they know their challenges and they can tell you how you can best support them. But here's some ideas that I, just based on my personal experiences in working with students and JSU. The first thing that you need to do is build empowerment. If you don't have a Jewish club in school, organize one for them. Have them put it together. Create a safe space for them to do their meetings. And don't be a bystander. Participate in those meetings. Let them know that you're there for them. Involve Jewish leaders from the community. Invite a rabbi to participate in club activities or meetings. They bring a wealth of resources to the club. And their stories are just amazing. Create a parent support network. You know, some parents have or participate in support groups. Invite them to speak to other parents. Ask them to support you in your club activities. You know, you'll be surprised how eager they are to help you. They are the biggest advocates for the students and for your school community. There's a parent who I hold very dear to my heart, Miss Brand. Mrs. Brand, she's here tonight in the meeting. Thank you for joining us, Miss Brand. She's so involved in the community. She's so knowledgeable. So when you pair with parents like Miss Brand, that you can do so many great things at your school with their support. And also, it's important that you attend school leadership council meetings. As teachers, tell your principal that you want the teachers to create inclusive lesson plans. Include the narratives of all these groups, Jewish groups, Latinx. Talk to your principal about ending anti-Semitism, you know, and hold your principal accountable, responsible for what goes on. You know, schools and district have a lot of resources that you can use with your club and with your school. And lastly, lead by example. Let your students know that you're there with them. Your students need to see that you stand by them. It's very important for them to see you involved. So.
Oh, thank you, Georgina. Well, you are that model. Hope many other teachers around Los Angeles will do what you do. And thank you again for your heart and your passion for Israel and supporting the Jewish people right now. So, folks, what a wonderful hour it's been. Our time has come to an end. Again, I just want to thank all of our panelists for taking the time to share their insights and wisdom, and just to let all the parents and students know we're here for you. You're not alone. We're doing all we can to support you all. So please get in touch with our team with issues that are coming up, and please invite your teachers and education leaders to join our Holy Land Democracy Project this upcoming summer. So that's it. I'm going to pass it back to Joanna to close us out.
Thank you so much for tuning in this evening for the latest webinar in our series in solidarity and in strength. And we're so grateful to these incredible panelists. If we could replicate them and put them in each of our schools. Following this webinar, we will be sending out some resources in an email, and this session will be archived on our website should you want to share it with family and friends. We thank you so much for joining the conversation this evening, and we are wishing you a wonderful start to your school year ahead and a great evening. Thank you.